Hi, Gene with today's thought, and today I'm afraid is going to be one of those thoughts where I have to share a lot of facts and figures. I mean, there are a lot here. I hope you'll forgive me if I have to look down and refer to my my notes here every so often. And also, I just have to discuss briefly my policy regarding commenters now, because I'll be replying to a commenter today. Now, I don't usually do that. In fact, it's very rare. My theory is that the comment section is really for all of you. Sometimes I'll just put a little note in there or just reply, a little written reply. But I have this vlog. I have all the time in the world to say what I want, so I try to leave that space for all of you. But once in a while, I will reply to a commenter if I get a comment that either raises an interesting point that I think I should address and share with everybody, or if a commenter gets something wrong or gets facts wrong or figures wrong. And that's what I'm going to do today. I'll be replying to a commenter. Now, this is a little pet peeve that I've had. This has happened a couple of times. Always from, well, you can tell by the comments that they're liberals, and which is okay. And I don't mind people disagreeing with me. The only time I have a problem is that I just get narratives. Basically, that's what it is. They'll just make some statement and they don't back it up with any facts or figures. And this is going to be one of the longer ones that I've ever gotten. And it's the commenter makes several statements, and just about all of them are wrong, and I think maybe one of them is right. I'm going to go through it point by point, and I'll give you some numbers. And that's what I'll be doing today. So I hope you bear with me. If not, then I forgive you if you shut off if you get bored with all the facts and figures. But I just feel that it's something that I have to do. Now, the commenter is, I guess, he put his name in here, actually. So usually they use pseudonyms or some kind of clever name. Like mine, I use OK Boomer, because I'm a baby boomer, and you maybe have heard that term, OK Boomer. So I use OK Boomer. So that's mine. But this is Daniel Zamora, and well, let me put it up, and here's what he writes. When people talk about the economy when Trump left office, I always ask what he did to affect those conditions. Usually leaves crickets. People don't understand that things felt good because we were stimulating the economy like crazy, which felt good but cost a lot of money we had to print. The next president was going to be affected with inflation regardless of who it was. Trump had no policies that directly helped inflation or economy. COVID was the best thing that happened to his political career. He takes credit for things that were good, blames the bad on COVID, so not his fault. It's nonsense, and it works for his base. So I'll go through this point by point. The one just jumped out at me. COVID was actually the worst thing that happened to Trump's career. It cost him It almost certainly, I mean, there was a lot of chicanery that the Democrats did. There have been court cases since the 2020 election that have overturned, struck down things that the Democrats did. But that's another story for another day. But the thing is, as you'll see, I'm going to give you the numbers. The economy was going along fine before COVID. COVID is what really hurt him. That's when the economy crashed, because we had a lockdown and shut down the whole country, which Trump initially did not want to do. And this is a problem. I'm going to digress right here, since it's going to be a long vlog anyway, because this is a problem that Trump has encountered. I can think of three different things, and COVID was one of them, because when near the end of 2019, when we first heard about coronavirus in China, Trump wanted to stop travel from China to the United States, so no one could no Chinese traveler or an American returning from China could bring COVID into the United States. And I remember very clearly the video of Nancy Pelosi in Chinatown in San Francisco, showing her solidarity with the Chinese community, because calling Trump a racist, that he was anti-Chinese or whatever, and that was a problem that he was running into in coronavirus. He did not want to shut down the country, but you can imagine what would have happened if he hadn't done that, which in Florida they did not, and in Sweden too, they did not shut down the country, in Sweden's case, or the state of Florida, and things worked out fine. But had Trump not shut down the country, you know what would have happened. He would have been blamed for every death due to COVID. He would have been blamed for every single death. They would have just chastised him for that and attacked him relentlessly. So that's why he had to do the same thing. Remember the so-called Muslim ban, where he wanted to ban travel from, not bring in unvetted people, among whom would be, we know now several terrorists have, through this open border we have, thanks to the Biden administration, I think the number's up to 900 known terrorists that we have caught at the border. So who knows how many we haven't caught. So he wanted to ban travel from those countries. Now he got called a racist again, say, well, it's a Muslim ban. If Trump was screening people coming from France, let's say in England, from a or Spain or some non-English, non-Arab country, and screening them to make sure that there were no Muslims coming to the country, I never heard of that. It was country specific, but you see the problem. So he went along with it. He shut down the country, and the economy stopped dead. And we'll talk about more of this with some numbers in the coming up. But that was the worst thing that happened. If he had not, as you'll see, well, we'll go through the figures, but you'll see the economy was doing well before COVID, and it recovered quickly after COVID, after Trump got the vaccine. Remember, I forgot what he called it, Operation, I forgot what it was, but he sped up. Usually it takes years and years and years to approve a vaccine. He got it approved in a couple of months. And Pfizer, their vaccine, you may remember this, they did not announce that they had the vaccine until after the election, and Trump had been declared the loser of the election. And it turns out that they had the vaccine in October. You can go look up the news reports. So it's not inconceivable that Pfizer deliberately held off from announcing the vaccine that they had a month before the election, because they wanted Trump to lose. Okay, so that's possibly because he was putting so much pressure on these pharmaceutical companies to get the vaccine out there. Anyways, that's another story for another day too. But I guess what I'll put here is now. Talking about the economy, I'll go through this point by point. When people talk about the economy, when Trump left office, I always ask what he did to affect those conditions. Okay, so first we have to go. I'm going to put up a chart now here. These are you can go on the internet, look it up yourself. I actually put links in the descriptions of this thing. So there's a link to the source of this information, so you can follow the link, hopefully click on it. I got suspended by YouTube for a video I did 3 years ago, so the link may not work, but you can copy the link, paste it into your browser, and go look for yourself for all these figures that I'm going to give you. So here's the chart, and I'm going to put it up right now, and let's go through the chart together. So this is a chart, and with the numbers helpfully inserted by me. And on that link that I gave to you, if you go to the top, there's a place where you can download a spreadsheet, and you get all these numbers. That's where these numbers are coming from. So in 2016, this was the year of the election. So this was Obama's last year, okay? Obama's last year, economic growth, GDP growth, 1.67%. Now, what you have to understand, if you don't already know that, because you see this number, 2%, comes up that the Fed, number one, for their target growth for inflation is to keep it at 2% or lower, but also economic growth. If you're above 2%, that's a normal economy. If it's far above that, then you're having more than usual growth. But if you're over 2%, you're good. So 1.67%, that's Obama's last year. Trump's first year, 2017, 2.24%, okay? Economy doing fine. 2.95% growth in 2018. 2019, 2.29, and it's a little bit lower than the 2.95 before, but higher than 2017. And you have to, now this is the important part, keep in mind, it was near the end of 2019 that COVID emerged, that we were getting all these news reports from China, and you had Dr. Fauci, and it's coming to the United States, and so on and so forth. Okay, so then 2020, that was a year we shut down the whole economy. Remember, 2 weeks to bend the curve or whatever, and it turned out to be more like a year. But that was the idea. But anyways, so then you had a negative 2.77 decline in GDP. It went down, and then after the vaccine came in, and Trump's last month was 5.94, almost 6%. We'll round it off, 6%. That is way above 2%, but the point is that we'll go into in more detail in a moment. That is way, way above the 2%, and that is a very vigorous recovery. Now, let's get to, and I'll throw in a couple other figures. This just came out recently, by the way, since we're talking about figures, because Biden was talking about these numbers, how employment is growing because of his wonderful policies. It doesn't say what they are, but the number was, first of all, virtually every month of the Biden administration, I think with maybe an exception of 1 month or 2 months, every month you get these great unemployment figures, and then they would be revised downward the next month when the media not paying any attention. But now they had to release a figure for the whole for April of last year until March of this year, so like a kind of a fiscal year, 12-month period. So they revised it down. You may have read it. This news came out yesterday, day before. I'm recording this the weekend. I'm recording this on Friday. You're seeing it on Monday. 818,000 jobs. They had to revise it downwards. 818,000 jobs. So that number was, all these numbers that were being reported, they were 818,000 jobs more than was actually the case. So now you have this figure. And here's an interesting thing, because Biden, a couple of times, he was boasting about manufacturing jobs, how he brought manufacturing back and yada, yada, yada. Okay, negative 96,000 revised. So we lost 96,000 manufacturing jobs. So we gained, not only did we not actually gain any manufacturing jobs, we lost 96,000, okay? Back to the chart. And now pay special attention to 2 of the years on that chart. The years would be 2020 and 2021. Now 2020, of course, was Trump's last year as president. 2021 was Biden's first year. And you can see, it's on the chart right there, that economic growth during the last year, this was when coronavirus came in and the economy was shut down, that economic growth declined to, well, we'll just say negative 2.75%. Okay, we'll just round it off a little bit. And then it soars after that to just shy of 6% in 2021. But look what the professional traders call the pivot points are. You can see the 2.77. It goes down until the middle of the year, and then it starts to go up. So it's during Trump's term, the GDP growth is going down, and then it starts to go up, and it goes up when Biden takes office in 2021, he inherits an economy that is growing. So that's why you see this is nonsense when he says, it's just plain false when he says that he inherited a bad economy. He inherited an economy that was growing rapidly. And by the way, to repeat again, 1.4% inflation, and gas, where I lived, gasoline prices were $1.86, okay, just outside of Tennessee, where I live today. So but you see these inflections. So that's the first inflection point. But then you see that during Biden's term, that pivot point during his term is in the middle during his presidency, and then it just drops. It just soars down. It goes down during his term as fast as it came up right after Trump's term. So you see, something must have happened. What happened in 2021? Well, we know what happened in 2020. We came out of the coronavirus, I don't know what you call it, disaster, problems, whatever you want to call it. But we were coming out of that, and then something happened in 2021. Actually, two things happened in 2021, and that's what we're going to get to in this little thought today. Now let's go. We're talking about stimulus. So now this idea, people don't understand, and things felt good because we were stimulating the economy like crazy. So what was the stimulus? Okay, so now we had, during Trump's first 3 years before COVID, we had an economy growing over 2% a year. And to be fair to Mr. Zamora, there was a stimulus. Now, what was the stimulus, though? Two things: tax cuts, regulation cuts. That was the stimulus. Trump cut taxes, the personal tax and the corporate tax. And the corporate tax brought manufacturing back. You had all these companies, American companies, multinational companies, they had branches overseas, and they had all this money sitting overseas. They did not want to bring it into the United States because it would be taxed at a high. It was over, 35% or something. The capital gains tax. He lowered that to 21%, and now Kamala Harris wants to raise it to 28%. But then all this money came back, and this. You can look this up too. It's not germane to today's discussion. This is we're putting out. This number's been cited a number of times, anyways. But the year after these tax cuts that were supposed to raise the deficit and cost money, the tax receipts, federal tax receipts, went up 47%. So the amount of tax revenues to the government went up. And by the way, in case you're wondering, this is the facts and figures days, what was that money used for? What is you're paying these income taxes every year, and where is the money going? What is it being spent on? You think it's being spent to benefit the American people? It's being spent to build roads and bridges and do all these kind of wonderful things. Well, I got some news for you. Now, I can't tell you where. Honest, I'm always honest. 25% of it, I cannot tell you exactly where that went, and I hope the government can, but who knows, right? But 75%, 3/4 of all the income taxes that we're paying, went to pay the interest on the national debt. Not the national debt, not to pay down the debt, just to pay the interest. 3/4 of your tax dollars, of every one of your tax dollars, is just paying the interest on the national debt. So, chew on that for a while. But that was a stimulus, because that's been shown over and over again. Bill Clinton did it too, which was a really kind of disappointed me when he spoke at the Democratic National Convention just the day before I'm recording this, and he said he didn't talk about that's what's so. I can't figure out Democrats sometimes, because he showed them the way. Before Clinton came along, it was almost impossible for a Democratic president. They were so far left to get elected, and he came in and he promised to be, he and Joe Lieberman, the Democratic Leadership Council, I believe it was called, and he campaigned as a new Democrat, quote, new Democrat. He won his first 2 years in his first term. He just moved way to the left, as Obama did, as Biden did, except for Clinton, with that one exception. They all move left. They tend to be moderates. They all move left once they're elected. Clinton did the same thing, and for the first time in literally decades, I think he had to go all the way back to the 50s, maybe even the 40s, I think the Truman administration, the Republicans won control of the House. It had been that long since Republicans controlled the House, and Newt Gingrich, a contract with America. Maybe some of you maybe were not even born then, but Clinton lost the House and he lost the Senate. And after that, but he learned his lesson and he moved to the right. In fact, in his, I forget which State of the Union speech it was, but he got out of the State of the Union speech and the first words out of his mouth were, "The era of big government is over." And so that shows you, and he worked with Newt Gingrich. He cut taxes, which is my point. Bill Clinton cut taxes. He cut taxes, and the irony, and the economy just took off. And the irony is that had he done that, and he, at that time, the economic growth under Bill Clinton, to be fair to him, was almost as good as Reagan's, very close. But had he adopted the policies that he did starting in his third year, had he done that from the beginning, he would have beat Reagan. He would have had stronger economic growth than Reagan. And he was also talking about welfare reform. And unfortunately, the whole Monica Lewinsky thing blew up, because we would have had welfare reform. We would have had health care reform, and not this horrible Obamacare. But that's another subject for another day. But the point is that the way to stimulate the economy, cut taxes and cut regulation. Now, I just told you cut taxes, personal and corporate, but also regulations. You may remember he said he wanted, for every new regulation, this was Trump's rule, ironclad rule, for every new regulation that the government passed, the Congress had to repeal 2 existing ones. And did he do that? Not only did he do that, he surpassed that. It was something like, I think I got the number here, 45 new regulations passed, 145 existing ones eliminated. That's a 3.2 to 1. So for every new regulation, there was 3 existing ones were eliminated. So cut taxes and cut regulations, and that was the stimulus that Trump used, and that brought us back to over 2% from the 1.6% in the last month of Barack Obama. Now, there was another, but this is the mistake, and we're going to get into this in a moment, because let me just make sure, I just want to, my notes here, forgive me if I look at them, but I just want to make sure I'm getting everything in here. Okay, yeah, this is what I'm going to get to now. So the stimulus. Now, this inflation. That's the number. That's what I was going to mention. Inflation, because he's talking about Mr. Zamora. He's talking about inflation for the entire. Here, let's put it up. Here, I was going to save this, but we'll put it up now. These are the inflation rates, okay? So, starting from Obama's last month, 2.1% inflation. Then Trump's first year, 2.1%. 2018, only 1.8%. 2.3 in 2019. And his last year, 1.4. Now, for his entire first term, it works out to 1.9%. And remember, I mentioned 2% before. That is the Fed's target for inflation. They want to be at 2% or below. So Trump is at 1.9 for his entire term average, but his last month, it was only 1.4, well below the 2%. Now you look at 2021, and this is Biden's first year, 7%, and the year after that, 6.5%, and 3.4%, and then 2.9% so far this year. It's running at 2.9%. 2024, obviously, the year's not over yet, so that's just estimates. It's not the actual number, because the year's not over yet. But the American Rescue Act, March 11, 2021, and then the Inflation Reduction Act, August 16, 2022. And by the way, Kamala Harris was a tie-breaking vote on both of those. So that was 2022. So now we see what happens. So after those acts, that's when you had the inflation. After the passage of the first one, and then after the Inflation Reduction Act, 6.5%. Now, what happened in 2022? 2022, that was when the Fed, Chairman Powell, Jerome Powell, Jay Powell, started raising interest rates. And that's when you have the inflation rate starting to come down. Not because of anything that Biden did, but because the Fed raised rates. Now we're going to talk about stimulus, because now that I told you the first stimulus that Trump did, which was simply cutting taxes and cutting regulations, and then in the year after, or at the end of his last, Trump tax receipts growing up, and an economy that was growing over 2% every year until coronavirus, and then recovering quickly once the lockdown stopped. Then up to 6%. I mean, it just soared. So those are the numbers. And what's important about this 1.4 inflation number, because you have Biden saying, he said it, he actually, I think, is this the one he got the bottomless Pinocchios for? There was something that he said that he's got, the Washington Post awarded him bottomless Pinocchios. I think that it was for what I'm about to give you. No, it's either the claim, I think it's the claim that he created 15 million jobs, which he did not. He created, well, it was until it was, now I don't know, since it was revised down by 818,000, but more like 4 million now it would be, including that reduction, because the other jobs are just the recovered jobs that were lost when the economy shut down, when the country whole shut down, and people could not get to their jobs during the COVID panic, whatever you want to call it, when the country was shut down. And that will get us. So, but Biden was saying that, we inherited this horrible economy, and he said inflation was 9%. No, it was 1.4%. It was 1.4%. I gave you the numbers. I gave you the source. I gave you the link. You could, as I wish these liberals would do. I don't mean to be hard on you, not personal, but it just irritates me that you don't. We have the internet these days, 21st century. It's very easy to look this stuff up and see if the numbers support your narrative. And in this case, they don't. They just don't. The inflation was not at 9%. And even now under Biden, now it's down to hopefully 2.9%, still above the 2% target. So if we're above the 2.9%, well, Jerome Powell said that if he sees it heading down towards 2%, that he'll start to cut sooner, because he doesn't want to overshoot, and wait too long. So I want to be fair about that. That there's still 2.9%, so maybe he won't cut, but I suspect that he will in September. But anyways, I could be wrong. I could be wrong on that. But the point is that right now, prices today are 19.8%. We'll just round it off, say 20% higher under Biden today than they were when he took office. So all this inflation had happened after Biden became president. And this is actually, there were a lot of glum faces on CNN, by the way, just recently, because there was one of the members of the panel, I forgot his name, Scott something or other, Jenkins, I don't know, anyways, but he was saying, because Kamala, they were talking about Kamala Harris and how wonderful she's going to be president, and he pointed out a problem, that Kamala Harris saying, well, I'm going to do all these wonderful things, and he just pointed out that the Democrats had most of the control of the government, and they definitely had the White House for 12 of the last 16 years. Why didn't they do that now? All the things that she says she's doing now, that she's going to do, why are they not doing it now? They have the White House and they have the Senate. So that's a little problem for them. But prices are 20% higher now, and that is just a plain fact. Now, let me see anything else I got here. I think I'm pretty much okay, now stimulus. Now this is, I'm going to show you a headline in a moment, but stimulus, so The other stimulus, which wasn't a stimulus, there are two of them. Okay, I mean, there was Biden ones I just mentioned, the Inflation Reduction Act and the American Rescue Act in reverse order. But there was, you recall, during Trump's administration, it was a $2.2 trillion injection of cash. But what was that for? Did it go for a Green New Deal? No. Did it go for building electric cars? No. It was something like $1,000 a month or something to replace lost wages from people who were not getting paid because they could not work because the country was shut down. Now, you look, and this brings us to the headline now. Now, I told you about this inflation, the American Rescue Act, the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, who is Larry Summers? I'm going to show you a headline from Larry Summers. In case you don't know, he's an economist. He's a well-respected economist. He was a president of Harvard, and he was Barack Obama's economic advisor. Okay, and here is this is an article from May 27, 2021. So this would be a month after the signing, since Biden signed the first of these two stimulus things that spent trillions of dollars. And here's the headline. I'm going to put it up. Larry Summers sends stark inflation warning to Joe Biden. So he said, you have the headline right there, and I linked to the article if you want to read the article, or actually it's a video. It's from CNN Business. You can watch the video, and it's simply predicting that that the result of that act, not anything Trump did, the result of that act would cause inflation. So what happened was not only predicted, it was predicted not just by Republicans and conservatives or whatever, but by Barack Obama's Democrat former economic advisor. Okay? He predicted it, and where was Larry Summers in 2020 when the Trump stimulus was passed? Well, you didn't hear anything from him. He wasn't predicting any inflation because the country was shut down and the economy was in the tank, which when you would use stimulus, which is just giving people the money that they can't earn because the government, who was responsible for shutting them down, shut down the country and prevented them from getting to work. So why should they not pay them, give them some money, since they are forcing them not to work or preventing them from working? But you didn't hear Larry Summers then because you had, I just showed you, negative 2 point, I think, is that what the number was? Negative 2.77 decline in the economy. So that's why you had that. But when Biden came into office, and the reason that Summers made this prediction was because when Biden came into office, the economy was growing at 6%, just short of 6%, and inflation at 1.4%. So when you have an economy growing at 6%, and then you suddenly inject $2 trillion into the economy, then you're going to have inflation. That is just that's just dime store economics. I mean, that should, unless you don't follow economics at all. You know, and I'm not a trained economist. I don't have a degree in it, so that's why I cite all these sources. But you have, but if you inject that money, and all that money went for, the idea is that, well, we're going to have Green New Deals and electric cars, and it's going to create all those jobs. And by the way, there's a green, they install solar cells on rooftops, to save energy, whatever. That company just went bankrupt, just like Solyndra went bankrupt, and other companies have gone bankrupt, these green companies. And Ford just announced that they're not going to build their electric, they were going to build some electric SUVs. Now they're not. They're going to go to hybrids, which makes more sense. But so all this money, it just wasted. The idea that the government just spends a lot of money and that grows the economy, and it doesn't, because economies, economic inflation is a simple matter of supply and demand. When you have it, as you've heard, I'm sure, more money chasing fewer goods, that's inflation. In other words, if you give more money, create more money, just print a bunch of money, but there's not more goods being and services these days being produced, then you're going to have inflation. So you have to do it the other way around. You cut taxes, you leave more people money in people's pockets, and more important, more money in business coffers, so they can invest and create more product and hire people to create the products and pay people to create them, and then they go out with the money they earn to buy stuff, and there's plenty of stuff to buy because they're creating stuff, and that's you don't have inflation, and that's why you didn't have it under Trump, because he cut taxes and to leave more money in the, well, I just showed you that more of the money, that's this myth that people have, that I guess I'm on a real rant today. This is a myth that people have, that we have to raise taxes because we have this deficit and all that, and we're going to, as if I just showed you that money, 3/4 of the income taxes are just going to pay the interest on the debt, not even paying down the debt. But the money is going to be spent. It's not going to be saved. It's not going to pay down debt. It's just going to be spent, and that leads to the question that Ronald Reagan asked decades and decades ago, that the money is going to be spent one way or the other, and then who is better able, who is more qualified to spend the money? You, who earned it, or the government, who did nothing to earn it? They just used the force of the government to take it away from you, and force you to pay it. So who is better? The money's going to be spent either way, and the obvious conclusion has been shown over and over. It's better for we, the American people, to spend the money. We'll spend it more wisely than the government will. Okay, so that's you can disagree with me on that. That's what the comment section is for. But the Rahm Emanuel, remember him? The famous statement, "Never let a crisis go to waste." Well, they have a problem when there is no crisis and you want to spend money. You create one, and that's exactly what the Biden administration did. They said, the 9% inflation and a bad economy, because the economy was growing at 9%, at 6%, inflation was 1.4%. There was no crisis, and that's why, again, going back to Larry Summers, that's why you have this inflation, because he threw a lot of money, and that's an irony here that. It was actually a Democrat, Burt Lance. He was the head of the Office of Management and Budget under Jimmy Carter, and he made a very famous statement. You may have heard it: "If it ain't broke, don't fix it." And that's the irony, because Biden inherited an economy that was not broke, and all he had to do was nothing, sit there, do nothing, and then just take credit for the great economy that was caused by Trump's policies. And he would, he has dementia, the mental problems, but I guess the Democrats would probably be cruising to an easy re-election, because he would have had a booming economy. But no, couldn't let it alone, because he had to find an excuse. He had to spend all this money to promote the Green New Deal or whatever, because that's what the Democrats love to do. So let me just go over my number and make sure I didn't leave anything out. Let me see. When people talk about the economy, just reading over Zamora again. People don't understand. Okay, when he asks people what he did to affect Trump did to affect the economy or whatever, he usually leaves crickets. So usually doesn't mean never, but obviously I'm not one of the people he asked, because I just gave you a lot more than crickets. People don't understand that things felt good because we were stimulating the economy like crazy. We would cut taxes and we cut regulations. And then coronavirus, what did he do after coronavirus? He didn't do anything. He didn't have to. All you had to do was let people go back to work. You cut the economy. The country had been locked down. Then you unlocked it, and people could go back to work, and the economy just took off. So that's all. So what did he do? He just let people go back to work. That's all he did. He didn't need any stimulus. He needed stimulus just when they were not getting paid because they weren't working to support them, and the reason they weren't working was because of the government. So, it's just fair to me. You could disagree. Next president was going to be affected with inflation regardless of who it was. No. 1.4%. And Biden, if he had done nothing, had not injected all this money, then he would not have gotten what Larry Summers predicted would happen, not when Trump left office, not while Trump was in office, but after Biden signed the American Recovery Act. That, you can look up the date, I just put it up there. That is when Larry Summers made his prediction, and we all know he was right. Let's see, Trump had no policies that directly helped inflation or the economy. Well, he didn't have to help inflation because there wasn't any. There just wasn't any. I just gave you the numbers before, and the inflation came into everybody. So he didn't have to do anything then. It's for the economy. I just told you, cut taxes, cut regulations. That's what he did. And even if you just don't allow any new regulations, that would be okay too. But he actually cut regulations. Every time a new regulation got passed, three regulations, we'll round it off. Every time a new regulation was passed, 3 were repealed. I personally would like it to have 50 repealed, but I'm not the president. Trump had no policies. Okay, we did that. The best thing that COVID, we just showed, it was not the best thing to happen to his career. It probably cost him the election. You saw the numbers. I just gave them to you, inflation and economic growth before COVID. Though those numbers would have continued if you would have had that in 2020, over 2% economic growth and inflation under 2%, then he would have easily been reelected. It would not have been a contest. And he takes credit for things that were good. He takes credit for things that were good because of what he did and in what he prevented the government from doing. Prevented more taxes, prevented more regulations. Blames the bad on COVID, so not his fault. Well, COVID was not his fault, and again, as I mentioned earlier, he wanted to stop it from coming into the United States, and he got called a racist by Democrats, including Nancy Pelosi, showing her solidarity in Chinatown in San Francisco with the Chinese community. Say, oh, I love Chinese people, and Trump likes Chinese people too, except when they're stealing, except for when they're communists in China stealing intellectual property and sending horrible diseases over to us. Bad thing. Oh, it's nonsense, and it works for his base. Country worked for everybody. Country when Trump was president. That's why you're seeing, I show these videos, if you're a regular viewer of black people, these are the ones who are supposed to hate Trump and call him a racist, and over I've shown, you can go back and go through my videos, and I'm not going to say a specific one because I want you to look at all of them, because I get a little credit every time you look at one. Hopefully get enough people watching my videos, and then believe it or not, I don't have enough. By the way, welcome to new subscribers that I got in the last couple of days, but I don't have enough yet where I can monetize, which is really irritating because YouTube is putting ads. I've seen a couple. I don't know if every time they're putting ads with my videos, but I don't get paid for them. I get nothing for them until I need 1,000 subscribers, and I've got like 600 something, and I need 4,000 hours of viewing time in a 12-month period. So I want you to get out there and view things, but you'll see over and over. You can find them on the internet too. Black people. One interview I recall in a barbershop, and actually the one I think that I did, the one before this one. There were a couple of them I did last week. Don Lemon asking people on the boardwalk, asking people, and a lot of them were black people, who are you voting for? Very blue state, New Jersey, and you would have expected them all to say we're voting for Biden. And they all said we're voting for Trump. And this is, Don Lemon is a liberal Democrat, so he would, if he could show a lot of Trump support, a lot of Biden supporters, he would have. Obviously, the interviews weren't there, or he would have. And they're all showing they're all showing supporting Trump, and some of them, I believe one of the women in the one that I just showed the video before this one, but there are other ones. There was an interview, somebody else interviewing black customers, men in a barbershop, but saying that we had more money. We did better under Trump. Okay, they did better. Minorities did better under Trump. We all did better under Trump. I gave you the numbers. I've probably put a bunch of you to sleep by now, but that's the way it goes. What can I say? But that's it. This could be a record, my longest video ever. But that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by. Anybody who stuck with me, I really appreciate it. If you could subscribe, that would really be great. Your comments are always welcome below the video, and hopefully with facts and numbers. And if you could subscribe, that would really be great. Share this video with anyone you think would benefit from it and has the patience to listen to it. But most of all, come back and see me again. I would love to see all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.